G'day Ticker Rugby followers, we're here this afternoon. We're just going to cover off some key basics and safety principles around our Scrum and our Scrum setup. So what we cover off today will be irrespective of whether we're a prop, hooker, lock or loose forward. Just key safety things we need and what we're looking for when we go into a Scrum. So if you'll just grab a bit of space, and we're going to start from the ground up, so our toes right up to our head. So first things, feet shoulder width apart just as they are here, feet facing forward. Everything we're doing is about going forward. When we hit the scrum machine, we're going to be moving forward when we hit the opposition. So no splayed feet out to the side like this, so shoulder width apart, feet facing forward. Next thing, hands at our hips, and the biggest thing we need to concentrate on is what we call the pelvic tilt. So hands on your hips here and rotate your hips forward, and if we come down to crouch, and you see we've got a bad round back and we can't get very low. Alright, so we do that again, hands on our hips, roll our pelvis out, immediately it locks out the back of our back and it's nice and flat. So when we come from here and we crouch and hold, straight away we're in a nice flat position and we're much lower than we were before, and we're starting to bring our chest in front of our knees. So going back to the start, shoulder width apart with our feet, feet facing forward, coming down nice and low and just looking over our shoulder there. So if I bring in Sam now, we're just going to coach just the key basics of our Scrum setup. Nice stable base, feet facing forward, and then I want him to roll his pelvis so his pelvis is out. And then when he's going to come down, he's going to come down and he's going to think pushing his ass away. So he's not going to squat his ass to the ground, he's going to push it away from him like he's pushing his lock away. So he's going to push his ass away and come down with his chest. And so automatically, if I put that pole on Sam's back, it's on roughly a 5-degree angle heading slightly upwards. So his pressure's not going down and he's hitting slightly up, so his shoulder's above his hips, so he's not going to collapse when he goes into engage the scrum. His head's nice in a neutral position. We always talk about when we're young kids, we get told you've got to keep your head up when you go into a scrum. So Sam goes into a crouch position, perfect pelvis, and he brings his head up so he can see where he's going, and now he stands up, leaving his head there. That's the position his head's in. As human beings, naturally we don't walk around with our heads in that position. So he's going to leave his head in that neutral position, put his pelvis out, feet facing forward, shoulder width apart, and he's going to come down into a crouch and hold position, and his head hasn't moved. He's in a neutral position, his spine's nice and straight, about a 5-degree angle pushing up, and if I go out here you can see my hand. So he can see my hand, so he knows where he's going. He doesn't need his head up in this position. The last thing here we need to look at is Sam's knees in relation to his shoulders. So Sam comes back onto his heels, and we can see that Sam's toe and his shoulder are roughly in line. So what that means is, when Sam goes to engage, he needs lots of room to extend his legs out. So he's going to get caught. So if we're nice and close like this, when we engage, Sam's going to be in a weak position. So what he needs to do is stand up again, and we need to get our chest as far in front of our knees as we can without falling over, so we're still steady. So we think when we're in our sit-up position, shoulder width apart, pelvis out, push our bum away and pull our chest forward in front of our knees. So when Sam comes down, his chest, we should get to about the midriff. So about here, so that's about perfect. So when he goes to engage, he doesn't need as much space in the gap that the ref gives us at scrum time to be able to get into a strong pushing position, which we're going to go and cover off now. So we come around here and we look at Sam in this position, and we use our magic pole again and we put it on him. And just like when we started before, we can see that pole heading straight towards the ground. So all that's going to happen here is with Sam in the opposition, we're going to get a collapsed scrum. Sam's going straight into the ground. No matter what comes from his lock behind him, all the force is going into the ground rather than through the opposition. So what we need is, in this position here, is we need to get Sam into what we call the 120 degrees at our legs, our knees and our hips. So if we get Sam, firstly all we want to do is to, from this position, coach our players is to think of these knees here, and we want them about 6 inches off the ground. So first thing is Sam puts those knees roughly 6 inches off the ground. Already we're starting to flatten them out here. The pole's starting to flatten out a bit, and then we need to bring his head back into that neutral position, and bring that pelvis in still. So that pelvis is nice and round out through there. Bring those hips up, and then we're seeing the pole nice and flat. Just bring those shoulders up a little bit. So he's in a nice and flat, and that pole's pushing roughly straight through the opposition. So when we put our lock on the back, if we come around here and have a look at our lock, and he's on the back of Sam here, and so all his pressure will go straight through. When we did our setup, we had our feet shoulder width apart. On the engage, those feet shouldn't have moved, so they're still shoulder width apart here, and we've got a nice steady base there for our lock to be able to push through Sam. When Sam was in the bad position, go back into the bad position, so he's pushing down, his legs are high. All that's going to happen here is our lock is going to ride up Sam here, and all the pressure is going to go through the ground from Sam, and the lock is pushing up that way. There's nothing going through the opposition. So Sam, a key thing for everyone to concentrate on here, you get into a bad position, think where your knees are in relation to the ground. So just by saying to Sam, knees to the ground, automatically he's come down into that good position. The pole's nice and flat, pushing straight through the opposition, and we've got a solid base here for our lock to push on. The 120 degrees is what we're looking for down here at the knee. So that's our strongest pushing position. If you think about it when you're in the gym and you're doing a squat, the further down you take the squat, the harder it is to then push that weight back up. So if Sam brings these feet right up tight, so bring your feet up, and then with the pressure coming from the opposition, as well as the lock back here, for Sam to push through and extend these legs is going to be really hard for him to do. So he gets back into that 120 degree position. He's nice and strong, so he can extend out those legs when we engage the opposition. So if Sam just extends out his legs, catches his feet up and extends out his legs, he's pushing straight through the opposition with our pole here. Yeah, break there. And that's the 120 degree position. We just catch up those feet, and that's the angle we're looking at. So if Sam just comes up again, so when we go back to our setup, I just want you to set up with your shoulders in line with your feet like we were at the start. So for that, to get into that 120 degree position, if we're in a setup position with our shoulders above our toes, we'll never get there. So that's why when we do our setup, feet shoulder width apart, feet facing forward, pelvis out, big chest, pull the chest in front of our knees. That will allow us, with our shoulders well in front of our knees, to get into that 120 degree position when we go and engage the scrum. That's just a brief covering of what we need when we, safety-wise, stand up Sam, safety-wise when we go into a scrum, regardless of what position we are. There's slight changes that happen with our feet placement, whether we're a hooker or a loose forward or a lock, but in terms of safety and key factors that you'll need when you're playing first 15, secondary school, even club rugby level, those are the bare basics that you must concentrate on. Cheers guys.